Index and index match match were concepts on the challenging list. Now, I don't actually think that index is challenging, but I think that many of you may not understand how or when to use index on its own. And that's because index is rarely actually used on its own. In fact, I can't even think of an example. So index is really only helpful when it's combined with the match functions. But if I hadn't introduced them to you separately, you wouldn't understand how they work together. So let's go ahead and look at an index example, and then we'll put it together with a full index match match. All right, remember we have data in a source table or multiple source tables. In this case, we just have one. And in this case, we're using the index function to return a value. Remember, in your head, when you're doing an index function, you just say, I'm looking in this source table, I'm looking in this table to see what data is in the cell where this row number and this column number intersect. So when we use the index function, we should be able to say, hey, I'm going to look and I want to know what's in row 3, column 2. So row 1, 2, 3, column 2, we automatically know, without even doing this, that it should be 150. That's the value that this index will return. And if you just have to do one or two of them, it's not a big deal to actually just look those up and type them out. However, if the data in that source table changes, or if you want to look up a whole bunch of different things, then it's really handy to use this index function. Now, rarely is someone going to say, hey, what's in row 7, column 5? So that's why index isn't generally used on its own. But again, we'll tackle that when we get down below. So let's use the index function. And remember, the array grabs the entire table, just the data, so starting in row 1. So grab the entire table of data, and then it's asking for the row number. Just click on it, comma, the column number, close the parenthesis, and we get 150. So again, pretty easy. Now before we copy this down, if I were to copy it down now, it would go kind of haywire. I mean, it might look okay, but it's not. Because, and I'll double click in the second one, you can see that instead of including this first row, it's now just starting at the second row, and then it's going to, at the very bottom, grab an extra empty row. So that's not working out so well. So I know in this first cell, I have to make sure to lock the entire reference, both the columns and the rows. Now when you copy it down, whoops, it should give me the right answers. And again, index match match is something that you can logically look up the answer for yourself. So if there isn't a hint, just look it up. Okay? Go up there and say, hey, if I'm looking at row 3 and column 1, row 3, column 1, 1, 2, 3. I should have Charlie, and I don't. So what do I do now? Well, I'm going to double click in here and see what is going on. Oh, because I said row 3 and it was really row 5 and column 1. So it is indeed correct. Row 5, column 1, there we go, Evan. So it is done correctly. Let's move down to the index match match. And what is the point of index match match overall? Okay? The point is to grab some information, reference information from another table. Now, couldn't you look this up manually? Again, yes, you probably could. But if you're looking in a giant table with thousands of columns and rows, you don't want to do that. Or maybe it only has 200 rows and 5 columns, which isn't quite as big, but you need to look for multiple items. Isn't it easier just to create one function and copy it rather than to go through and look for those values manually? Yes, the answer is yes, it is. So in the index match match function, we also have to remember that we are not given the row or the column number. So that's where the match functions come in. The match function, the first one will give us the row number, and the second match function will give us the column number. Then the index, which comes at the very beginning, will look at that row and column number and give us the value in the cell where those intersect. All right, so let's go ahead and start this. So we know we're starting with an index. And again, in your head, you're saying, okay, index, I am looking for values from this data table. So highlight or select all of the data cells in that table. Okay. Now we need the row number, and in order to get to the row number, we use a match function. And we're looking for rows, so go ahead and grab what value? Well, right now we're looking up Brad. So we want to find Brad's value, and that happens to be in this first column, but wherever the names are, in this case. So I'm going to look in this first column for Brad's name, and it has to be an exact match. That's one of the things that's really important when you are looking and using a match function, is that whatever column you're looking in has unique values. So often it's IDs or social security numbers or phone numbers or email addresses, because those are unique. If it was just anyone with the first name Bob, not unique. So that wouldn't be something that would be helpful in a match function, or as helpful. Now we're going to find the column number, so we're going to use a match function, and this time we're looking for Brad's sales level, or all of these people's sales level. So grab sales level, look for that heading across the top of the table, all of the headings, and it must be an exact match. I'm going to close both parentheses and type enter. So we should be able to find Brad. Where's Brad? Oh, here's Brad. Okay, so Brad, and we want to find a sales level. So that's up here, sales level. So if we scroll down to where those intersect, it gives us level 1. Excellent. Before you copy this, because things will go crazy if you copy it and down and over, this is what you will end up with. If you get this, you know you need to go back and make your absolute references. Now, I think part of this is pretty easy. Anytime you reference anything from this source table over here, or any source table, the whole range is locked, both the column letter and the row number. So go ahead and lock those right off the bat. And the last one, you always do this. Those never change. Now what you have to decide is how these are going to be locked. All right, so here I have the name Brad. When I copy this formula down, I want to grab Javier and Manny and Brad and Zaya. I want those different names, so I want the row numbers to change, but they are always going to be in column I. So I'm going to make sure that column I is locked. Now when I copy these formulas over to the next column, I want sales level to change to incentive earned. But when I copy it down, I don't want it to move down a row. So in this case, we are going to make sure that the row is locked. So row 33 is going to be locked, and the column is going to change because it's going to move from J to K. Now you can copy this down and over, and everything is filled in. Now make sure if you need to format something, it'll be in the directions. In this case, incentive earned is a dollar amount, so I'll probably make it accounting with 2 decimal places. Or in some cases, if you have really big numbers, we will ask for accounting with 0 decimal places. So make sure you are careful of that when you are doing your exercises and doing your exam.